Alrighty, we're live. I like these live videos. I feel like it's more raw. It's also easier for me to get them out to you guys because it's like Facebook already pretty much downloads it and everything instead of having to upload it. It's so different when you create your own video and then have to upload it. Anyway, the questions come into me now about my fight career, or let's be clear, Sean Kilgus'S fight career. Let's start with that just a little bit because I'm not that person, you know. I'll get back to that, you know, that's kind of the end segment, but I am not that person. So, you know, to people tuning in, you'll feel like, oh, why, you know, he's just talking about himself in the third person. He's just talking about himself in the third person. No, she is not. Because she is not that person. So, she is going to tell you what it was like being that person, and what kind of effect that had probably on a lot of my choices in life. But the questions come in about, you know, oh, who is this person? You know, out of nowhere, I'm fighting, and, you know, people know me, and, you know, someone will go look at my record and go, dude, he's fought some tough guys. Someone will go look at my record and go, dang, he's 2-6. Okay, first of all, she is not 2-6. She is not that person. Let's talk about those numbers and how they translated from a life that, when you're not being you, I think it affects everything. And so that's very important. So let's just kind of start with where I started, where Sean Kilgus started. There's certainly an element of that person still in me, but I think that at a certain stage I definitely veered off from becoming the person I was trying to become, and stayed the person that society expected me to stay. You know, obviously as a kid, you know, I started martial arts at 5 years old, karate. We were doing jiu-jitsu by the time I was about 10 or 11. So pretty much been in mixed martial arts my entire life. I did my first full contact fights. I was 15 years old. They were open palm. It was more like pancrase rules, so we had to use the open palm. And we couldn't hit to the head on the ground, so kind of like your new amateur rules that we have in most states these days. You can't hit to the head of a grounded opponent. All other techniques were pretty legal. We could actually knee to the head in the tournaments I was doing. And these were tournaments put on in Walterboro, South Carolina by our school at the time. But they weren't smokers. I know there's everybody, oh, smoker. These weren't smokers. These were tournaments organized by us. Multiple schools came in. You know, I won the first tournament I did, but I was fighting, you know, some other teenage kids that time, and so I always asterisk that one. You know, it was like, hey, I had some jiu-jitsu. These other teenagers didn't. I took them down. I did the thing. You know, and later that year, I'm still 15 years old, and we have another one of those tournaments. And a couple of college wrestlers came in to beat me. One of them told me that, and unfortunately I didn't get to the guy that was cocky and said he wanted me. Not until a jiu-jitsu match later, I beat him there, so I'm still 15. These guys were about 25, 26 years old. They all outweighed me, probably were cutting weight. We didn't even know about weight cutting back then. And the first guy we fought for 19 and a half minutes. It was crazy, you know. We had a 20-minute time limit and a 5-minute overtime. Very reminiscent of like old UFC super fights. So we did that, and you know, 19 and a half minutes. Guy had passed my guard. He put a forearm on my neck, and I tapped, man. I felt like, you know, poo for tapping that way, but at the same time, I didn't have anything left to give. They actually had to pick me up off the mats. It took me half the day before I started to feel kind of normal. That was fun though. But I earned a lot of respect. My best friend Ash Bowman at the time, he'd given me a brand new pair of kickskins. I think he'd worn them like once or twice. He always liked to give me his stuff. and I was fighting. And oh, it was the kickskin gi with the nice patches. Man, that was a beautiful gi. You guys know the kickskin breed. They used to, when Scott was still alive, he made these beautiful competition embroidered gis, and Ash had one, and he was like, man, if you win, you get to keep that gi. And I didn't win, but he gave me the gi anyway, because he said, yeah, fought my heart out. And, I did. And that was crazy, And then 2 years later, I finally got the opportunity to come down to Georgia and do another tournament. And that was an odd one. I was 17 years old. I got a bye into the second round of the tournament. There was 3 rounds, and I got a bye into the second round of the tournament. Won my first fight, and then so I'm advancing to the finals automatically after 1 fight. And my opponent was supposed to come in with 2 fights. But what actually happened was I was like, I don't know, nerves. I took some ephedrine and stuff back then. I probably taken that stuff before the fight. And man, I was outside. Of course, if anybody knows, there was a lot of puking over times in my career after fights. But I went outside. I had to puke a lot, and they let me know I was fighting again in 15 minutes. And then come to find out, my opponent, he had fought only 1 fight, and the way the tournaments worked out that particular time, we didn't have alternates or anything. So he went into the finals after his first fight, but it had been a couple hours earlier. He'd had all this time to rest, and mine was pretty much butted up. I was just kind of getting my breath back from my fight. We had a hell of a match, same thing. I went into the finals. I don't know if Ador's watching, but there was a guy from Team Rock, a guy named Ador Spencer Canup. Man, that was a hell of a fight, and he mostly whooped my ass for all the way into overtime. I remember Ash telling me, just don't let him tap you, go to overtime, that way, or go to the decision, make it go to a decision. And I refused. I was like trying to get a submission and got caught myself. I was not going to go to judge's decision. I knew I lost anyway. So, that was my second, that was now my 3rd tournament. People do tournaments, it's crazy. People do all single matches now, and we were doing tournaments, fighting multiple times in a day. And, so I go on, and after that, I had some struggles at home, and I went to go join the Lions Den, actually. If anybody knows Ken Shamrock's Lions Den, I went and tried out for that. When I was 18, I had just turned 18, so that would have been in 2001. I went and tried out for the Lions Den, and didn't work out. I didn't pass. First time I never passed an athletic event, and was determined to go back and do that. Of course, Ken shut the Lions Den down for a while, but I came home. I went to do work. I was working. And no real prospects going on at the time. And I got I was working with my uncle in Savannah, and the place I trained out was in Walterboro, South Carolina, about an hour north of Savannah. And but I wasn't training because I was just living in Savannah working. And I called up Matt Waller. I called my coach first and said, hey, I'm moving back to Walterboro. I got to start fighting again. And he says, well, call Matt Waller. He's got a tournament coming up. Call Matt. I'm going to get you on this one, man. Matt goes, no, I don't have a tournament, but I got this thing I need you to do in 2 weeks with this guy, Jason Miller. Don't worry, you're going to beat him on skill alone, which is hilarious. If y'all know who Jason Miller is, that's hilarious to think that. Now, he wasn't Mayhem Miller back then. He was, just probably a blue belt, I bet, at the time, which was pretty decent back in that day, under Jacare, at Alliance. And so a lot of guys were training from Alliance. But I didn't know much about those guys. I just took the promoter's word. Yeah, I'll just get this guy on technique alone. It didn't go so well. Woo! About 2 rounds of getting beat on. That was when we started going into rounds. But find out, I'll get you on this Matt Waller. That was supposed to be apparently a pro fight. Then I ended up fighting amateur after what was a pro fight. I did get that moved back down to my amateur record at one point. So my amateur career is pretty good so far. You know, mixed results, doing tournaments. First one-off match. That was the first time I had done that. Was with Jason Miller. Everything was tournaments. And then after the match with Jason, I asked him. I was like, "Hey man, are you going to be doing the tournament? Because I want a rematch. You know, I took this on short notice." And he's like, yeah, whatever. You know, he kind of blew it off. But Matt had told me when I came to do the fight that he has a tournament in 2 months. So I came back and did that tournament. I won that tournament. I don't remember, you know, the guys' names. They're on my record. But one of them, the guy I won against the finals, he was from basically, I don't know if Rory and those guys were hardcore gym at that time or not. They might have been. But that was one of their guys. And you know, so it was a tough fight. It was a fun fight. Still waiting on Cam McArgue to get the footage of that one. That fight was hilarious because I remember some girl from their camp, actually, from the hardcore camp, came down to the ring to talk to me in the middle of the fight, and I was talking to the girl in the middle of the fight. And you know, and my mom's yelling at me to, you know, get my mind out of the, you know, what. And it's hilarious because you can hear my mom in her very southern, loud voice, you know, yelling that, "Get your head out the sun," you know. And it was a fun fight. You know, it was kind of went back and forth. You know, it was a few times I thought I was finishing the guy. It went into overtime before I finished him. It was a great fight. You know, and I won that tournament. I was supposed to go up and fight in a national tournament. That was basically a regional tournament at the time, and I won that tournament, the Gauntlet 3. And went up, supposed to do a national for a big contract. I would have gotten a contract with like Super Brawl, or I think the other one was Extreme Fighting, I believe was the other one back then that they were talking about. We would get a contract if we won the national. So I actually didn't get to make that because I had a back injury. Didn't get to go do the national. Now, you know, fast forwarding, nothing a lot going on. I'm kind of stuck. I'm sitting in Walterboro, you know, not a lot of training partners. Ash wasn't there anymore, or wasn't training. I don't remember what was going on, but I had nobody to train with. And so, Dom, I feel you, brother, okay? You know, so started looking around, and then come to find out, Steve Hedden had been inquiring about me coming to Atlanta through a friend of ours, a mutual friend, and so I moved down to Atlanta and started training with, it was LA Boxing back then. It's Knuckle Up now, but back then it was LA Boxing, before they were Velocity, before they were Knuckle Up. And I come down, I was working for Steve, and we had a huge argument, and he kicked me out. I was out for a year, training basically, just working regular job again. And got an invite from Ash. That's right. Ash called me up and said, "Hey man, Ken reopened the den. Why don't you come out here and try out again?" So I did, and Steve had actually, and I had been repairing our relationship, and he you know, I told him about me going out to try out at some point while we were talking, and he goes, "Well, man, you got to come in here and get ready." So, you know, despite, you know, the fact that me and Steve had some falling out and then whatever, you know, we were friends, and when he found out I had that opportunity, he wanted to make sure I was ready for it. So I went and got ready, went and made the Lions Den tryout, stayed there 2 months, left. You know, that's a whole story for another day. If anybody ever has questions, just, you know, maybe I'll do a video about that one day. I'm still trying to get Ken to sit down with me one day. Ken Shamrock, if you're listening, you still owe me a sit down. You told me you were going to visit me last year and bailed out. You know, so I came home, I sat around. There was some other amateur tournament, by the way, I had done at some point before I went to the Lions Den, I believe. Somehow it worked out. I don't know. I can't even remember. But it was another one, Fabio Costa. I know he did his, like, it was like his MMA debut that night. And we were up in Tennessee, ran Weathers. We all won our divisions. Fabio got a belt that night. I got a belt that night. Ran Weathers got a belt that night. We all won our amateur fights, and we all won those. And then I got a call. I had been out of training for like ever. And Steve says, "Hey man, I need a guy to fight tomorrow night." And I had just talked to Steve. This was after I got back from the den. I've been out for a year. I was smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. Guys, don't do that. Holy cow, don't do that. I was smoking a pack and a half a day, drinking, not taking care of myself at all. Just literally, I was spraying lawns back then. I worked for like True Green and Scott's Lawn Services. And Steve says, "Hey man, you just told me you want to get back into fighting, and they needed somebody to fight tomorrow night." Well, the night he calls me is my birthday. Anthony Nieves, Ren Weathers. I don't know. Diamond and Kelly might have been there that night. That we all used to hang out together. But it was my birthday, and we were all hanging out. And Steve calls me up, "Hey, you want to fight tomorrow night?" Dude, yeah, let's do it. So I went pro on a 24-hour notice. I had not been training for like a year. I was smoking a pack and a half a day. I was crazy. I say unless, like I said, that was Sean Kilgus'S. Sean was a different person. I'm going to use I. This is a weird third-person shit. I don't like doing it. I do understand that Sean Kilgus'S is part of this. I kind of said at the beginning but let's understand, like, I'm not Sean anymore, but I am in this story. It's the easiest way to do this. So I took the fight. It was an American top team black belt. Jukau was actually cornering the guy, from what I understand. So the guy that ended up being my coach later was cornering the guy. And I gave him hell, man, for a couple of rounds. There was rumor that I had torn his ACL with my heel hooks in the match. But I don't know, because he fought Pele, Landy, right after me. If anybody knows, there was a Pele in soccer, but there was also a Pele in MMA. And they fought at Bodog Fights not long after we fought. And Pele had also put him in some leg locks. But the rumor was I had hurt his legs before Pele had got a hold of him. I don't know if that's true or not. But I did definitely, I had some opportunities to win a fight that I took on, no training, last minute. Right after that fight, I immediately ended up fighting basically Voodoo Walsh, and I had just kind of started training again and wasn't really training. And I did that fight on a 2-week notice. That wasn't like, hey, I was out of shape like my first one or anything, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't mentally prepared. Steve wasn't in there. Steve didn't want me to fight that guy anyway. They'd been all trying to get me to fight that guy. And Steve didn't want me to fight him for a million reasons, so there's probably a lot of mental stuff going on there. So I don't know. I took him down. He was a wrestler. I took him down. He told me after, I was like, dude, I never expected you to take me down. But I took him down. And he ended up putting me right into a triangle choke. He was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well, so he was a good grappler. So I took him down, just ended up right in a triangle choke. I think I panicked and just didn't know what to do. That was always my Achilles heel though at the time, was triangle chokes. Not anymore. Whew, I drilled that. I got so many. I can't remember the last time somebody's been able to actually close a triangle on me. Secret triangle, escape. Don't get in the damn triangle. Break it before it's closed. Third fight, CJ Haggerty. This is the dumbest. This is back to those dumb things that guy Sean did. I think I am going to refer to him as Sean at this point. Sean meets this lovely woman, and we go and do what new people do, and just around each other, right? And we're drinking and just not taking care of us. So we were drinking a lot. I told everybody we were drinking about a handle of bourbon or brandy about every 2 to 3 days, hanging out and just hanging out. And that's when Gavin was conceived, and I got a baby out of that. But I did not train for that fight, not at all. I would get drunk, man. We would be sitting on the couch laughing and getting to know each other. Like, I should probably be out running sprints or something to get ready for this fight. But I was like, man, this guy, he can't beat me. I'm not even worried about this. It's very stupid, very cocky, and I went in and I got a split decision loss. Nobody, a lot of people didn't agree with the decision. I don't agree with it. I still don't agree with it, but it was a split decision loss. It was right after the boxing commission first took over, so judges and stuff were a little weird back then, of course. And so they gave me an immediate rematch with CJ. So I went and trained. I had a funky fight. The first fight I was relaxed and having fun, and then the second fight with CJ, there was, I don't know, maybe too much mental pressure to get the win back. Also, I was a little sick that day. I was trying to sleep the whole day. But I went in there, regardless. Looked like crap the first round, took care of business in the second. Just got out of it. Whew! That one was strange. So at that point, I'm 1-3. Going through changes with new place, trying to move from knuckle up teaching when they were going bankrupt, yada, yada, yada. All kinds of stuff going on. To my new partners at In the Ring Sports. You have training partners. And I got an all-fight offer for Johnny Buck. And if anybody knows Johnny, he's a beast, man. Johnny's a beast. I was sick during the fight, and basically a couple days before the fight, I had gotten sick, and I felt fine during the weigh-ins and all that, but Oblas had scheduled us a fun boxing match just before the co-main, which was me, and the main event, which was Joe Merritt, fought that night. And man, by the time we went on, it was 1 or so o'clock in the morning. I think just from having been sick, all of it kind of just came back. Like my immune system was crashing at that point of the evening. But I couldn't pull out because I had this online heckler. This guy was heckling me about pulling out of a previous fight, Miguel Guzman, some guy that was a student at Knuckle Up. And he's moved to a different state, and he's heckling me about pulling out of a fight. I pulled out of a fight because my girlfriend died. I was the first on the scene. I had to watch my girlfriend die. I mentally wasn't right to do the fight. And he was heckling me. You should have fought. You should have fought for her, or whatever. Of course, a lot of people didn't really know she was our girlfriend at the time. So anyway, I didn't pull out of the fight. It was a decent fight. It was stopped prematurely. It shouldn't have been stopped where it was stopped. If we went to the third round, I know Johnny's leg was hurt. But at the same time, I wasn't doing so well myself. So I don't know what happened in the third round. That was one of those fights where I didn't want to see it stop, though. I think it was a bad stoppage, and, tough guys, you let those guys fight it out. You got two pros. There was no reason for the fight to really get stopped where it got stopped. It was on the bell. You literally hear the bell ring, and then the ref comes in, stops us. So now, I'm 1-4. It's like, but let's track back and understand, CJ Haggerty was a tough guy. I knew I had him, but he was a tough guy. He trained with us and fought with us. I only ended up fighting him because he was talking a lot of shit about how I went to the Lions Den. I don't know what that was all about. He was talking a lot of trash about me. And the first guy, Mitch McElroy, like I said, he was a black belt. He went on to fight at Bodog fights at the time. Johnny Buck goes on, I believe, to fight for Bellator. I don't know if he fought for WC, but goes on to fight for Bellator, and tough guy. So I get a reprieve fight, kind of, and fight Brian Meadows. Actually got to train a little bit better for that one than I had. Got to work on my flexibility. Sean Mateer was one of my students at the time, and he was helping me with my stretches at the time to make sure I was flexible enough to throw high kicks again. I couldn't throw any high kicks at you, Johnny Buck. Just know that. My back was jacked up at the time. Everybody knows I've always had back issues. They're getting better as I'm getting older. I got better care. Couldn't. So you see the difference when I fought Meadows. He was shorter than me, of course, but I was actually able to get the kicks up and turn them over and do things, and a little different. So I was able to beat Brian Meadows, and at that point I was 2-4. Excuse me, 2-4. and then I was out. That was it. I called out Johnny Buck that night for a rematch. I had planned on staying actively training, and man, it just none of that worked out. For 6 years, I could not get back to fighting. Went to go take a match, jiu-jitsu match with Josh Bolin. If anybody knows Josh, that guy's a beast. I was probably still underestimating him at the time because he'd come up so fast. Josh, sorry man, I really wanted a good match with you that night, but I had gotten sick that damn week. Chukau and everybody wanted me to pull out of everything I was doing because I was going to fight Jared Gooden. I got the last minute opportunity to go fight Jared Gooden in 2 weeks, and I had the jiu-jitsu match in between, and I refused to pull out of it. I should have. I wasn't focused on it. I did get sick at literally the beginning of that week. I mean, I wasn't sick come fight time or anything. I was still congested. I was congested when I went in with Jared still, but I wasn't sick. I felt fine. Don't take me wrong. I'm not making an excuse there saying, hey, I was sick with Josh. I had gotten sick that week. I probably should have just been focused on resting, but I was like, no, I got to train. I got to get ready for Jared. I can't, I got to do some different stuff. I had to start wrestling really hard and doing, MMA stuff, that I wasn't doing the whole time. I hadn't been doing any MMA stuff for a while. And people say, well, why did you do that fight? It was a 2-week notice. Jared Gooden's a beast. And I didn't know I wanted to get back to fighting. I've been working with some of my fighters. My amateur fighters were coming up, and that was where some of the passion came from. Dominic was one of those guys. But I got custody. I was getting custody of my son. I needed money, too. I tried hard to negotiate with David Oblas for more money. I didn't get any extra. So money was a thing, but it was a title shot against an actual an actual legit guy that's probably on his way up. So what do you know? I have another guy on my resume that's fighting in the UFC. I don't fight easy people, and then that fight got stopped a little weird too. Not to say, and I've told everybody the same thing, I had a strategy for Jared. I had something I thought would work. Part of it was getting to the second round. But fight got stopped weird. I didn't agree with the stoppage. I don't think Jared agreed either. We had talked about it too, but it doesn't matter. It got stopped. And I always told everybody the same thing, like I said about the Johnny Buck fight. I didn't like the way it was stopped, but shit, maybe Jared just whooped my ass for 2 more rounds. He was whooping my ass in the first round. I got him down a couple of times, but I was taking damage, and definitely didn't win the first round. I'd have called that probably a 10-8 round for Jared. I mean, even with my takedown, I don't know. I mean, that might have been a 10-8 round for Jared, and it gets, so go on to the second and third, maybe nothing changed. I felt like I had a strategy, maybe nothing changed. But it was a 2-week notice fight. I felt like I did well, but next fight, I trained my ass off, man, was Warren Smith. It was a little bit later than I wanted it to be. I was supposed to stay active after Jared, but it took me another year to get to where I could fight again. And age has definitely been creeping up on me, obviously, this whole time. Getting to an age where I was supposed to be retiring. And I wanted to just do enough fights to really balance out my record, to get out of that negative record. I had no other ambitions at the time. I just didn't want to have a negative record, because I knew that would be a criticism as me being an MMA coach and things like that. And so, Warren Smith, Jason Wolf was another person that I was looking to fight at the time, and Warren Smith was another lower ranked guy in the same weight class or around the same weight class, and so it was Jason and Warren were 2 fights I was offered. Jason couldn't do it back then, and I got Warren. And so Warren, and I had a fight, hey, that guy finished you. Well, he didn't finish me. It was, strange, only the second time I did a weight cut for a fight. And I want to say the weight cut was bad, but it wasn't the weight cut. I didn't feel like the weight cut was hard, but I also didn't get sleep going in that fight. Nathan Williams, who's unfriended me on Facebook, and now he's probably going to be in Jason Wolf's corner. He told me he can't train with me anymore. He's not comfortable or whatever with my life choice. Was supposed to corner me, bailed out. Didn't even stay and corner me that night. Jared Gooden actually cornered me that night. Thank you, Jared. Should have been somebody more familiar with me, but You didn't have to do that, and you did. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I disappointed. I knew I could tell you were disappointed, man. But I did tell everybody the whole day, several people, man, I'm not feeling right. I'm cramping up all day. I haven't slept. I've gotten 5 hours of sleep. Basically, my kid woke me up, the night before weigh-ins and the night of the fights, man. I didn't get any sleep because of my kid, which is very unusual. He normally sleeps through the night. He was up fussing, and I didn't get any sleep. It was weird. He never does that. And I didn't sleep a lot, but I wasn't going to pull out of the fight. I thought I might should. And I talked to Mike Galatello and Jared Gooden and Nate Williams. And I'm talking to these guys, and I'm like, they're like, man, just go get a nap. Go do the, But it was a very, the show must go on mentality. And by the time I was warming up, one of my students, Joshua Harris, is holding pads for me. He's like, hey, you're not moving a lot. And he'd been holding pads for me in training the whole time. He's like, you're not moving a lot. I'm like, dude, this is like it. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, I'm cramping up so bad. I cannot move. I can't move like I want to. The style you guys are going to see out of Bree is not actually just new. It's very new in the last several years, and it's exploded this last year. But it was in development, and it's partly because I was starting to come out to my friends like Dominic and people close to me. I was starting to feel more alive because people around me were accepting me for me. And the style was starting to come out of me, but I couldn't show it like I wanted to in that fight with Warren. And Warren he suggested that he knew something was up. He couldn't tell what was up with me after the fight. We had talked, and he said, "Hey man, I'll give you a rematch. I do want that. If Warren's still willing to fight, I get through Jason. Warren, I would like that rematch with you, man, but I got to focus on Jason right now, obviously." And so that's how I became 2-6. It was a lot of, I didn't have a corner. In that last fight, I needed a corner. And so, if you guys know, Chuck Cawthorn is one of my coaches now. I only got to get out there once, but he's going to be somebody cornering me going forward. And that was something we talked about, and he told me the same thing George Allen told me after the fight was over. I finally had somebody that, was like, dude, you shouldn't have fought in that state. And, it was George Allen. And I was like, well, everybody said, this show's got to go on, George. And he's like, dude, that's not true, So, it is what it is. But I'm really not that person now. And let's talk about that. Sean Kilgus'S was about to retire completely. I was literally on my way out. I had talked with Dom and told him that after his title fight in January, I was leaving this because I wanted to go move somewhere and come out and go start a new life and be the new me somewhere else. Go enjoy my life. Understand what suppressing somebody psychologically does to them. How many years I was in an industry that wouldn't tolerate this person that you see now. And I knew that. I wanted to be me. I wanted to be, I can't even say this person, Bree, because I didn't even know that yet. I wasn't even comfortable enough to explore myself to find out who I was because of the industry I was in, because of society's views of what that means and things like that. And so I was gonna go away. So it was depressing. Depressing being told you can't come out because you're going to lose business. Depressing being told you can't come out because it doesn't fit this industry. Doesn't fit the town we're in. Doesn't fit. You don't fit. And Dom said, "Come out, just do it." And Dom's not around. He's just informed me we talked today, and we're talking. He's training with SBG now, and I'm happy, that he's training. Period. Supposed to be here. He's supposed to be on my side, and he wasn't, and that's okay. What's funny is that doesn't matter. By him telling me that at that time, by supporting me in that moment, he gave me that hope, that ray of light. It made me cry. That I could come out and I could be in this industry. And it didn't go as smoothly as I think Dom was thinking it would go. There was members. He was like, you would never lose so and so. Man, some of those people were the first ones gone, of course. But now I'm this person, and I'm not the old person, and I feel free. I wasn't actually going to keep fighting. I was still going to train like Dom and fighters or whatever. But I didn't really, if I was sticking around, I didn't really have any ambition for fighting anymore either. Until we were training for Dom's fight, and the day that the X3 guys came over, it was Nathan came over, Harrison Aiken, one X3 guy, but Harrison Aiken came over, and Joe Elmore and Hunter McKendrick, they all came over, and we were sparring that day. And only Josh Britt was privy, really, to understand what was going on. Josh Britt's one of my other students, and he was watching us. I think he was just watching us spar. And in that moment, there was a moment that something just dawned on me, and I was like, this is fun. I hadn't had fun fighting in many years, and this is where I'm telling you I'm not the person. Because I wanted to start comparing it to I feel like I did when I was a kid. And I liked fighting. And I liked getting hit and all this different, I liked fighting. And then as I've thought about it more and more, I'm like, but that's not it. I'm really not that kid at all. And I am a totally different person. And I am free differently. That kid wasn't even free. This is a freed person, and I feel different, I think different, I train differently, I teach differently. I have a whole damn leg locking system that's brand new. My ingenuity, my craftiness kicked in, and I'm not the person I used to be. So to tell people, hey, don't pay attention to that, 2 and 6, don't, it was tough guys. We can talk about that all day. None of that matters. Sean Kilgus'S retired from MMA. Sean Kilgus'S went away. That was a fictitious person. This is who I am. This is who I've probably been trying to be for a long time and couldn't be that person. And mentally, I've been in jail, just locked up for so long, and now I'm out and I'm free, and I feel good. And despite all the bumps along the road, I'm fighting now because I enjoy it again, but because I think the enjoyment is I know that me being in that ring now is going to do so much more. It's not about the money. I wasn't really ever fighting for money. It's better ways to make money, Fighting's not about the money. And then it became about the money. And that's probably when the passion was gone. And the passion's back for me now because there's something there. Say for me, it's the passion in Bree, this person that you see now. That passion, I think, is about changing perception of everybody about what an MMA fighter or what an MMA fighter could be. So we'll say that. But what a person would, when you look at me and you perceive what I am as a member of the LGBT community, Your perceptions on us. I think that's what I'm fighting for now. To change a perception of society. And I'm going to have that fight. Jason Wolf's not going to stand in my way. That 2-6 record means nothing because I'm not that person. I feel free now, and I still have change in me. Change. No, I'm not growing. I'm not getting boobs. Clay Bennett. That's not a change. But I want to change how I talk. I feel it, and I watch myself when I'm messaging and doing things, and I use certain words, and I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right anymore, and I feel like my vocabulary is going to change. It's going to be something that's going to take a lot of time. Probably, I don't know. Just the way I talk is still something I'm working on. But that's the only change I have like that. I'm still changing. Mentally, it's a lot of change going on. And the person that I used to be, Sean Kilgus'S, that person just doesn't exist anymore. I've moved on in so many ways, and I don't think the same. I don't understand. I don't know how to describe that. My brain literally doesn't function like it did before, and I don't see anything in the same light, in the same reality that I used to. So I feel like that means I'm not who I used to be. So I hope that can help you guys, for especially new people coming into my world. I get a lot of friend requests now. God, I get a lot of friend requests and messages, and if I'm not getting back to you fast enough, I'm sorry. I'm not getting that crazy amount, but also understand I train, and I'm a single parent, and new people are coming into my world very curious about me, and so I wanted to do this video for them. I think mostly for them. I could care less about what my detractors, the people that have known me for all this time, have to say about my fight career or whatnot. They don't really matter to me. The people who are supporting me, I wanted to do this video for them, and I wanted to do this video for so people can understand the pressure and the weight on somebody in my position, and see the difference, hear the difference in the person, and understand that they're a different person once they make that change in their life to be open and honest about who they are. And you guys will see that change in the fighter that's in this this physical body belonging to Sean Kilgus'S, and it belongs to Bree now. And you'll see a difference. Of course, there's all the knowledge and the tools and the things that were learned as Sean Kilgus'S. It's all in there, but it didn't flow right. It was like, if you watch Naruto, they talk about having their chakra jammed or something like that. It's like my chakra was jammed. It wasn't flowing properly. It's different now. Different flow, different everything. I'm out, guys. I'm done with that little rant, but yeah, because I had a few people ask me, I wanted to do that for you guys. So I will see y'all later. Peace.